Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review The Strokes' 2011 album, Angles. It's pretty good. The band enters into the 2010s pretty well here, in my opinion. Definitely a solid output from them. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist, which is all of them. This album is definitely really good. It's consistently high quality, and it never gets boring. Most of the tracks aren't huge hits or anything, but they're all well done, and they're all pretty different from each other. The album flows alright, but nothing spectacular on that front. Because all the songs are really close together in quality, it's pretty difficult to get a good flow going. They're all good, but none really stand out. So the album kind of just feels like a straight line. It goes from sort of mid-speed to slow, back to mid-speed, never really speeding up or slowing down enough to create any sort of texture. If they had put most of the slower songs together, or maybe most of the quicker songs together, they might have been able to work with something there. But instead, they just went even. So, mid-speed, slow, mid-speed, slow kind of deal. Maybe two mid-speeds in a row every once in a while. But, there's not really a lot of thematic texture to this one. The genre is still pretty much alternative rock, although I would say that most of the songs of this album are more pop-oriented. There's a lot of pop synth styles from the 80s being featured prominently on several songs here, especially the opening one and some ones in the back half of the album. There was only one single released before the album, Under the Cover of Darkness, which I don't think any of the tracks here were on the radio at the time. My favorite song, probably the opening track, Machu Picchu. It opens the album really well, and in my opinion, no track on the rest of the album manages to surpass it. Although I will say Under the Cover of Darkness and Taken for a Fool do come relatively close. I rank this album third out of the 5 Strokes albums I've heard so far, so right in the middle. It's definitely a higher quality album than Room on Fire and First Impressions of Earth, and more consistent than either of them as well. It's pretty close to Is This It, but I think despite the decade of experience, their debut album just flows better and has kind of a purer sound than Angles. This album really feels like a safe album from them. It doesn't feel like they're trying to take a ton of risk with the tracks, or they're trying to push their sound in a super new or different direction. They're just sort of moving from alternative rock into pop, which is not a particularly interesting direction. And this one, Angles is definitely not as good as the new Abnormal, for sure. Additionally, this album doesn't take my top spot from 2011. That stays with Adele's 2011 21, which is pretty close to Angles, but I think it slightly outclasses it in quality and overall sound. It's certainly really close. They're both really good albums with a lot of really good tracks that kind of have a similarity, lack of flow problem, but I think 21 is the better album here. Next up is Duran's 2004 album, Astronaut. It's not too bad, which is pretty good for them because their other albums from this period are not good at all. So stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.